Hi, I'm Haydan. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to break down my track, What You Want. This is out now on high definition.
What you want me to do?
Alright, so this is the Ableton project over here. I believe this top area here is the original kind of like idea before it got arranged. The track doesn't sound like that anymore. Like this melody here got completely just changed into chords and simplified. This kind of track came about after listening to songs by like Alex Preston. I do really like kind of the vibe that he has in his tracks. He's very hands-on kind of producer, like he has his own kind of guitar in there that he plays along, and the majority of his tracks do have some sort of guitar elements in there. Again, I guess that's just because of his background of being able to actually play the guitar and have these funky chords and riffs in there. So what the track came about from this sample. We've got that loop and then we've got another one, so we're actually mixing two together to get one melody. And I believe that's the same throughout. The track just kind of mutes half of it before it's introduced. And then the real magic comes with the effects that are applied to it. So if we turn everything off one by one. First, compression. Just catching those high notes. Those loud notes, I should say. And now Tantra. Now Tantra is the main bit that's creating this effect. This kind of top area here is modulating this cutoff, so I believe when it's on its highest, it's all the way here, the cutoff. When it's its lowest, it's all the way at the bottom. And you know, that's kind of jumping up and down with high resonance. And then we've also got this ramp happening, and that's happening on the cutoff as well. So over time, it's still also moving up and down. So those things working together create those effects. We've got some distortion, delay, glitch, flanger, lo-fi. The glitch I don't believe is doing actually on. No, because it's off there. Lo-fi is off as well. I don't even think the flanger's on. No, the mix is down all the way. So all that's happening is the filter's on and the delay is on. Then we've got the EQ. You know, cutting some harshness out, getting rid of the lows. Kickstart, which is sidechaining it to the kick. You know, another EQ again, tackling those resonating frequencies, and another compressor. Because obviously at this point we've changed the sound so much with Tantra, you know, we kind of need to do those things again. So yeah, that was the main thing that started the track. I really liked those two samples and messed around with them a lot until I got that vibe. I think after that what happened was the drums were started, probably in its basic form, definitely not like this. It would have been like a clap, open hat and whatnot, and then a kick and a bass line would have written. But we'll talk about the drums first, we'll then go on about the low end, and then we'll come back to the other elements, so like the Rhodes and the laser and whatnot. So if we listen to the drums all together, you'll notice there's a nice like kind of conga vibe going on as well. And that will feed into the bass line as well a bit later on. So claps is a lot going on in claps, which is quite odd for me. Normally I'm quite lazy, but like we've got a lot going on. We've got this layer, tight snare, another snare, clap, and Foley. And that gets you this kind of sound. If we zoom in, you know, we've got some of them off the beat ever so slightly. They're all got EQ on each one of them. And then on the clap layer itself, we've got some saturation happening and then another EQ just to gel them all together. We do have them going into some room reverb as well. So that's it dry without the room reverb, but that's been applied to the whole drum bus. Moving on, you got the tambourine. Quite a lot of EQ going on here, it's quite harsh. This is a lot of resonating frequencies happening. I just kind of wanted to tame. Also pans, moving it from either side. Shaker, doing a similar thing. So this is actually a drum rack with several different bongo samples. Yeah, I guess what happened here was I was just playing on the keyboard, messing around with all the bongo sounds I have. There's quite a lot, bongos and congas, sorry, bongos and congos. Probably would have tracked in a rhythm first, just the same bongo hit, until I was happy with it. You know, we've got some swing on there as well. And then I think it would have been a case of just moving notes up and down, making sure that like kind of the sounds then matched the rhythm. There's a bell. Again, that's got some swing on it. EQ, a closed hat's probably the same. I can hear that's got some panning happening in the actual MIDI clip itself. Timbala, I believe that's how you say it, which is kind of like a rolling snare. Got 3 different top layers which have been cut up and rearranged. I believe this is probably just going to be kind of a hi-hat or a shaker. Yeah. That one's interesting. I really like to incorporate real sounding drums into my tracks. It just brings out so much groove, and it's a really nice element to have. And then another top layer, and this one's actually been panned to the right, whilst the first one's been panned to the left. If we play them 3 together. We've got a 909 hat. Nothing fancy going on with that really. Got a ride which will be used to bring some extra energy to the track later on. And then we've got a nice bongo loop. Yeah, and that's the drums. You know, if we play them all together again, you'll get this. Just noticed that the room reverb was off when I've gone through that, so a lot of those sounds would have sounded quite dry. But with the room reverb on, you know, especially when it's applied to the overall drum bus, that's gonna glue all the sounds together and make it sound like it was all played, all recorded in one one session. There's more going on with the drum bus, so Decapitator is something I always throw on there just to saturate the drums. Turned it up ever so slightly in tone to be a little brighter, and we're also bringing the volume down. Drum bus, it's adding some more saturation, but it's adding a different kind of vibe than Decapitator would have. Got glue compression, catching all them transients, gluing them a little bit more together. And then we've got the EQ, getting rid of the lows that have been brought in from Decapitator. Got an auto filter which is being used to transition between elements, or sections I should say. We've got Ozone Imager, which is adding just a little bit more stereo width to the track. And then we've got a limiter catching any of the notes that are, you know, peaking a little too high. Let's talk about the low end now. I know there's still sections in the music group that we need to discuss, but I want to talk about the low end and the bass because it kind of relates to those bongos. We've got 2 bass sounds and we've got a kick. If we look at the kicks, yeah, we've got some EQ, so we're getting rid of some boxiness. We're then bringing up the high end. We've got glue compression. We've got kickstart, oddly enough. Oh, right, so kickstart's not actually doing anything. But I think what it was for was to kind of find the shape of the kick, pick one of these kickstart presets to use, and then we know, right, we're going to use classic chain on the bass and stuff like that. As you can see, you know, that's a good kind of curve to have. So yeah, that's the kick. There's not a lot going on, just some bus compression happening on the group, which we'll get to later. If we talk about the bass, so it's such a full sounding bass. I absolutely loved it when I stumbled across it in the Evolution of Sound pack. Again, probably haven't changed this much. Maybe the ADSR, not a lot would have changed. Everything comes down to that kind of melody, that bass melody in the groove. We've got some swing being applied to it. The swing's probably applied to the majority of the MIDI track, the MIDI elements, just so everything follows the same groove. Processing wise, bringing up some of the highs, getting rid of some of the 124 hertz area. I think that's kind of where the kick, one of the main bits of the kick is. And then finally we've got like this additive layer. You know, it doesn't sound like something you use as a bass shot. It sounds kind of more leader, but in this case we've used it as an additive bass shot. Got a kind of top layer and then we've got a low layer as well. that we're EQing. We've got kickstart again with that kick, that preset I was talking about before from the kick, but only 50%. We've got some reverb, some delay, some compression, some utility. The master, we've got the master volume being brought down. In this case, I wanted it to be quite loud here just because it's just before the drop. And we've also got some Endless Smile being applied to it there. And yeah, that's the additive bass. Again, if we play the low end. Really groovy. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to play it with those bongos, and then you'll hear kind of how they all work together. You know, it really adds something to the track. So if I just play the track, you'll kind of get a sense for the vibe. Those were the essential parts of the track, as it is in any tech house track. One thing that it lacked throughout the track was a vocal.
What you want me to do?
This one's got some echo on there. I believe this one's a little different.
What you want me to do? What you want?
Yeah, so this one's being filtered. So let's talk about the first one. It's being used as like a transitional element.
What you want me to do?
And we do it again over here before the drop.
What you want me to do?
And we've got some EQ on it, some frequency shifter. I don't actually know if that's doing anything anymore. There was a version over here where we used it before the drop that I ended up not using. We've got a preset called Forest Floor on there, which is the reverb. We've then got some echo, which is also ping-ponging from either side, and then we've got some kickstarts. And yeah, that's everything that's going on with the spoken word vocal. The second layer, like I said earlier, is a filtered one, so this one's got the similar in terms of the reverb, in terms of the EQ. It's got a delay on it, and it's also got this filter, which is, it's essentially doing this every so often based on the rates. Adds something in the back of the mix. We've actually cut it up as well, so instead of it just simply saying the whole thing, it kind of stutters it.
What you want me to do?
And then this other little vocal shot is a like kind of female shout. And that adds a lot as well. You know, it's essentially being used like an instrument. It's got a nice tone to it. There's a lot of EQ going on with it. You know, there's a very resonating frequency that needed to get removed. We've got the reverb, we've got kickstart, auto pan, so it's going between different earphones, and it's filtered as well throughout. If we move back onto music now, there was something missing from the breaks, and this was something that actually kind of slowed the track down for a while. It took a little bit of time to get this right in terms of what was going to fill these areas. Now, it's not the most complex thing you'll ever hear either. It's very simple, but it changes the vibe of the song. It gives it kind of this kind of lounge tech house vibe to it. You know, like when I picture listening to this song, I picture it being played in like just a casual kind of bar, not necessarily properly going for it at a rave, but more subtle kind of head bobbing, just nice daytime drinking in a bar or like this lounge area. It's relaxed, but you know, it's building you up to going out later.
What you want me to do?
That to me answered my problems with the track. It gave me that kind of nice vibe. It's really simple. It didn't need to be over the top. And yeah, we've got that kind of Rhodes sound. The second Rhodes that comes in is actually a little bit more melodic. It gives it a bit of a kind of jazz solo vibe to it. So I'll just play that just so you can hear it. So yeah, let's talk about those. Where have they come from? So Analog Lab 4 was a plugin that was on Splice. It was a plugin that done those, you know, you pay 10 £10 a month, and you get it once you've reached a rent to buy or whatever it was. I really recommend it. It's fantastic if you're a preset guy like me. A lot of the time when I use Analog Lab, I actually come here not knowing what I'm looking for. When it comes to like synths and pads and stuff, I'm just kind of looking until I find something that sounds cool. However, they do have some nice pianos and Rhodes sound and stuff. Anything in here probably didn't change much, maybe tweak some of these things slightly. OTT, just to bring out the high end if I kind of play this without it. You know, it brings out some more of the high end, even though it kind of doesn't exist. It's kind of artificially adding some in, and it gives it something nice to it. I can't put my finger on it. It's like a shimmer. Then we've got EQ, which gets automated in certain places. What is this? So there's some delay that gets filtered. Some reverb, auto filter, which is just fading the track in and out. You know, that stab is also used in one of the drops. You know, it's there just before the break again to hint that it's coming again. And yeah, I believe the same sort of processing is on the other one. I think I just for simplicity's sake, I duplicated it just so I can apply solo over the top of it. That's the only reason why there's two of them. This laser effect, which is just, I believe, adding, yeah, it's just a percussion sound really. And then we've got a string which has not even been EQ'd. You know, adds that kind of suspense, especially in the break. And then if we move on to the effects, this is probably going to be very simple, not a lot going on. We've got a cymbal crash. It's been EQ delayed and got kickstart on it. There's also a short cymbal, which is probably the same sample, just short. Laser fall, not even EQ'd. Downlifter, this one is EQ'd. An upsweep. So the effects are just typical bog standard transitional effects. Finally, we have the fills. Now I like to keep these separate from the drums just because a lot of the time we bring the filter down on the drums, but the snare roll is getting louder there, and obviously if I wanted to do that effect I can't have the snare roll in there, so fills go in there a separate kind of folder. We'll talk about the snare roll first. Typical sounding snare. I've got a phaser on it. Got an EQ after that, the utility controlling the volume. Got a long tail effect happening. And then these are just going to be a load of drum fills. And I talked earlier about having real sounding drums in tracks. You know, one of these top loops it's got that in the groove, so it only made sense to include some real drum fills in the track as well. And yeah, that's kind of a breakdown of all the layers in the track. If we go to the master channel, you'll see we've got a utility on there where the breaks are happening. We're lowering the volume only by a little bit, so minus 1.5 there, minus 1 there, and that's just to make the impact of the drops more impactful. If we look at this here, we've got quite a wild reverb effect here, but it works. So yeah, we're just adding some reverb to the breaks. You can ignore that one at the end of the track, and then you can ignore this one as well. And then the chunk of the mastering is being done with Ozone. If we look at these and play the song, I've got the gain match and I'll bypass it. You'll hear what this does. So, you know, this kind of master chain, you can hear the difference there. It really cleans up the mix. And I like to do it in this order. So imager, exciter, equalizer, maximizer. To be honest, I just play the most energetic part of the song and click learn and let that tell me. And then always lower 200 hertz down to fully mono, and then I mess around with the other three until it feels right. And then using the exciter with the warm settings, mainly just on these two bands. We put it all the way up to 15, but then we're using like a mix, the dry and wet. So it's only 34% wet. And then, yeah, that's just adding saturation to the high end of the track. Then we've got an equalizer barely doing anything. and must have thought that the mix sounded pretty good already. So we're just getting rid of some frequencies around the 230 hertz area. High end's ever so slightly down with minus 0.2 dB. And then yeah, we've got the maximizer, which is just pushing everything so it can be its loudest before distortion starts happening. What I like to do as well is have the U-lean loudness meter open. Let's go to the loudest part of the track, which would be this final drop. And essentially what I'm looking for is any loud, like if these blue lines are taking over. Sorry about that, I've just absolutely destroyed people's eardrums. But if that's too much, you might be able to start hearing distortion. It's key that when you're looking at this, that you don't have too many of the blue lines. You can have a few like that. It's a lot of the time you're not actually going to hear major distortion issues. It's when you start pushing it. So what comes in handy is having the U-lean loudness meter. I always try to aim for -7, anywhere between kind of like -6.5 to -7.5 is always good. And then I just kind of bring this down. I also use this kind of slider here to affect the sound as well. What you'll notice is the higher this is, the kind of more of a pumping sound you'll get, and that's because the limiter is it's working harder. So if I really pumps this, you'll hear it quite clearly. You know, it doesn't sound natural. It sounds quite harsh and horrible. So you don't want to go too high on that. So that's fine. 7.2 again, that's not that bad. And yeah, that's that. The track is out now, so if you want to grab a copy of it, you can do. I know I've not fully played the track out here. There will be another video on my YouTube channel if you want to listen to the full track. That will be in the description, as well as the buy link, so you can buy this on Beatport, listen to it on Spotify, listen to it on Apple Music or whatever streaming service you are subscribed to. Give this video a like if you are still here. Subscribe to my channel. I plan on doing breakdown videos for every release I have moving forward, now that I'm kind of set up in my studio, I guess. Yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I shall see you next time.